During World War II, Floyd McKissick watched shattered towns in Europe rebuild with American help.
A storm broke nearly 200 Axis divisions.
And he carried the question home with him. If America could rebuild communities overseas, why couldn't it make the same commitment to Black communities at home? Standing in Warren County, North Carolina, he imagined a city where there was almost nothing. Roads, homes, jobs, institutions. He envisioned a place built on dignity, ownership, and opportunity. What does it take to turn a vision into a community? Every movement reaches a moment when it must ask a question, a new one. For Floyd McKissick, that moment came after years on the front lines of the civil rights movement. Voting rights had been secured, but law alone could not build a future. McKissick believed the next chapter of freedom would not be written in courtrooms alone. It would be written in the institutions that allow communities not simply to survive, but to flourish. Then, in 1968, opportunity arrived. Congress passed the New Communities Act, creating a program to help finance entirely new towns across America. Most saw another federal initiative. McKissick saw the chance to build a city with opportunity at its foundation. He chose thousands of acres in rural Warren County, North Carolina, a place that many overlooked, a place where he believed prosperity could be built from the ground up. The vision reached far beyond houses and roads. It called for everything a city would need to thrive: jobs, schools, healthcare, businesses, neighborhoods. Surveys were completed. Roads were planned. Federal support arrived. Construction began. For the first time, Soul City existed, not only on paper. It was an extraordinary vision, one that would require extraordinary partnerships to survive.
There has to be a strong personality, leadership characteristics, a high degree of morality and respect for other people. Those principles have to exist in a project, and I think that I have to spend a tremendous amount of time encouraging people and to move onward and up and keeping a positive approach on life. Accenting the affirmative, is what you have to do on a project like this.
History does not offer verdicts, but it does leave evidence. And the evidence around Soul City suggests that the dream, however honest and however large, rested on a foundation with two quiet fractures, both of which McKissick might have seen coming, and neither of which fate required him to leave unaddressed. The first was the shape of the alliance. McKissick had secured something remarkable: a formal relationship with the Nixon White House, federal backing, a place at the table where such projects were decided. But the relationship was personal, where it needed to be structural. One man, one administration, one circle inside of HUD. When the administration changed, the circle tightened. When Jesse Helms decided to make Soul City his target, there was no wall of institutional support to absorb the blow. No coalition of Black elected officials who had publicly claimed the project as their own. No congressional Black caucus demanding that Washington answer a simple question: if this country will finance Columbia, Maryland, what is its obligation to a Black-led town in Carolina? That question, asked loudly and repeatedly by many voices rather than just one, might not have saved Soul City, but it would have made it something harder to kill in silence, a movement rather than an experiment, a collective demand rather than one man's petition. The second fracture was in the foundation of the money itself.
I think racial prejudice is what makes people say we have failed. We, in fact, have succeeded.
McKissick had a vision and a planner and a federal guarantee. What he lacked, early enough to matter, were partners with something to lose, developers, builders, industrial recruiters who had put their names and their capital on the line beside his in public before the first audit arrived. Projects that belong to too many powerful people are difficult to kill quietly. Soul City was isolated. One man, one dream, and isolation is what made it a target. A broader coalition of investors and builders, assembled early, would not have changed the structural forces working against the project, but it would have changed the geometry of the fight. And then there was the resource that went almost entirely untouched, the people themselves. Black communities had been passing the plate for a century. Church drives, credit unions, savings clubs born in the belief that pooled sacrifice could build what individual ambition could not. A national Soul City fund, for example, offered honestly as a high-risk investment in something larger than profit, might have converted public devotion into patient capital. Thousands of ordinary stakeholders with money in the ground and a moral claim that no senator could audit away. McKissick did not need HUD to be the only one with skin in the game. The recession was real. The backlash was real. The machine was larger than any single project and older than any single administration. But Soul City did not have to face it alone. Reimagining Soul City today means understanding what McKissick had and what, in his era, was simply not yet available to him. He went to the business people, the lawyers, the planners, the architects of respectability who could navigate the corridors of HUD, the corridors of power, and the White House, and could be taken seriously in the rooms where money was being committed. That was the right instinct for 1970, but even then, a different kind of power moved through that region, through its music, its stories, its athletes, and its artists, whose work already carried the weight of the South, the beauty and the wound of it, to audiences across the country and the world. He built Soul City with the tools of Columbia, Maryland. He might also have built it with the reach of a Soul City Records. Imagine from the beginning that the artists who came from that ground were treated as founders, not as guests at a ribbon cutting. J. Cole from Fayetteville, Ninth Wonder from Durham, DaBaby from Charlotte. Not their names on a brochure, their money in the Capitol stack, their stages inside the town itself, their platforms turning Soul City's story into a story their audiences already know they care about. Braiding the town's evolution into the music, the documentaries, the culture that moves at the speed of attention. The planners and bond lawyers would still be in the room, so would the people who fill the arenas. And if those same artists and athletes invited ordinary people to hold a stake through cooperatives, community investment funds, a share of the ground, then a 21st century Soul City would not merely be celebrated, it would be owned by the people who believed in it long enough to build it. In a country where capital follows attention, that combination, beats, jump shots, faith, and steel, may be the missing ingredient, the lift its ancestors never quite achieved.